kind of known as Judy Squared. Well, as we've already discussed this morning, we're good at so many things at the Smith family. We're amazing at sharing stories about the impact our support has on the students and families that we help. We're also really good at sharing stories about the volunteers and mentors that spend their valuable time with us. But there's another sector of our vast and ever-growing family that we also have a profound impact on. And that is what I'd like to talk to you about today. Since I'm part of the major donor team, it's probably not surprising to hear that I'm going to be sharing insights about the impact that we have on our donors. Those of us in the fundraising team get to be on the front line of receiving amazingly generous donations to support our work. We get to feel that great sense of pride and accomplishment in that moment when the money's in the bank. So my goal today is to share my view that that sense of pride and accomplishment should be shared throughout the organization, because landing each donation is thanks to the hard work of every single one of us sitting in this room today. A great example of this is the donation that we received from Kel and Rosie Day in July. Now I'm going to say this like it happens all the time. It's only happened once, but I'm a great believer in positive affirmations. So I believe if I say it like it happens all the time, it probably will. So Kel and Rosie Day called my team member in Melbourne, Rachel Pachetsky, and told her that they wanted to give the Smith family $1 million to support our work. Rachel had sent them a proposal with the goal of achieving a $600,000 donation, but their response was to give even more. The realization that an individual or a family wants to donate $1 million holds a really powerful message for all of us. Well, of course, Kel and Rosie's motivation was to help disadvantaged students. I also believe that the donation is, in part, a tribute to all of us. It's a tribute to marketing and media for sharing our stories in such a clear and compelling way. It's a tribute to the programs team for meticulously planning and evaluating programs that truly change lives. It's a tribute to Biz for having the data we need on our screens when we need it. And it's a tribute to Supporter Care, who professionally and efficiently answered what was probably that donor's very first call to the Smith family. I wish I could name every team and every individual, but you'll probably be happy to know there isn't time. But I grabbed this chance to speak to you today to remind you that our win is your win, and that sense of pride and accomplishment is all of ours to share. I'm going to change gears now because, as Judy mentioned, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about CFEF. We love acronyms at the Smith family, so that's another acronym for you. So I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes kind of giving you a quick overview of what CFEF is, and so you'll have a working knowledge of this special project, and you'll also know where to direct any inquiries that you may have. So CFEF stands for Children's Future Education Fund, and you'll be hearing more and more about it in the months ahead. As part of the preparations for the 100th anniversary of the Smith family, the board decided that a charity our size, and with such a long and esteemed history, we should have an endowment fund. We then decided that the big, hairy, audacious goal for this fund is to raise a corpus of $100 million by the 100th birthday of the Smith family. The three key motivators for the board's decisions were: 1, to attract significant income to support existing activities and future growth; 2, to diversify funding sources and reduce our dependence on raising funds each year for long-term programs; and 3, to extend our reach to the new market of major philanthropists and high net worth individuals. In addition to recognizing that an organization our size should have an endowment fund, the board also recognized that we are not money managers. So we went through a rigorous selection process and decided to entrust these funds to perpetual trustees to ensure that we achieve the best return versus risk ratio when investing. We also realized that to get the attention of major philanthropists and high net worth individuals, we should tap into some kind of peer-to-peer support by creating a fundraising committee of major philanthropists and high net worth individuals. The name of that committee is the Centenary Council. There's another acronym, CC. And it's named the Centenary Council because we will be asking these people to assist us as we head into the centenary of the Smith family. Kevin McCann, a senior statesman with a list of board appointments and accolades as long as my arm, has agreed to serve as the chairman of the committee. And he's busy building a team of committee members probably as we speak. So you know what CFEF means, why it started, who we're talking to about it. So the only thing I haven't covered is what we're going to be talking about. We had to formulate a really significant ask to have any hope of reaching our $100 million goal in 5 years. So we looked at what we do really well, scholarships, and we turbocharged it and created a product that would speak to the hearts and minds of the donors we want to engage. The ask is $250,000, and with that donation, the donor received a named perpetual scholarship. The $250,000 donation is invested with perpetual trustees, and that capital remains there forever. Then the interest only supports 5 scholarships in perpetuity. It's as simple and as complicated as that. As I mentioned, there were many people involved in the conception and the birth of CFEF, including the board, Lisa O'Brien, Rosie Simpson, Judy Barakoff, myself, and now we've hired a dedicated relationship manager, so Rebecca Link, who spoke earlier, is going to be living and breathing CFEF in the months ahead, and you can go to Rebecca with any inquiries that you may have. So far, we've had 8 donors generously answer our call to invest in CFEF, and the fund recently tipped over just $5 million. So I know you're all thinking, 5 million divided by 8? Yes, you're right. Some people have given more than 250,000, so I'm going to explain that in a minute. What I've found fascinating, and what I am going to be finishing with today, is explaining that each of the 8 donors has had a completely different reason for choosing CFEF. As much as I would love to, I don't have time to tell you about all 8, so I'm going to tell you about 3. The donation that put us well and truly on the path to the $5 million corpus was a $3 million request from a gentleman in Tasmania named John Barrett. The interesting thing is that if we did not have an endowment fund, we may not have received that $3 million donation. Mr. Barrett didn't like the idea of his life savings being spent in 1 or 2 years. So he was looking for a charity that was demonstrating the financial discipline of creating an endowment fund. And in a situation where those funds would be invested and saved for the future. The second scenario was completely different, and we're from 2 donors in Victoria. It was in some ways a heartbreaking proposal that was presented to us by Claire and Morton Lambourne. Unfortunately, their son Michael died of leukemia when he was only 9 years old. And what Morton so articulately shared with us was their feeling that, and I quote, "They did not think anything good would ever come of losing Michael, but now something would." In other words, Michael was never able to receive the gift of a good education. And so now Claire and Morton could ensure that other children would. And the arrangement was made in perpetuity. The third and last story that I'm going to share with you today happened just a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to share it with you because it was one of the most gratifying moments I've had during my 7 years in this role. And I want to circle back around to the beginning of this talk about why this interaction should be gratifying to each and every one of you also. Adrian and Monica Avis approached us a few years ago and said that they wanted to support the Smith family because they believe in our work. They were a bit perplexed as to whether they wanted to support us right away or leave a significant bequest. So Jackie Travers and her team were also instrumental in stewarding the relationship. We learned that Monica had been a social worker for 30 years, and so she saw firsthand how poverty and the lack of a good education can affect a young person's life. Then Adrian and Monica came to our great big thank you lunch, so shout out to the events team for that. Kevin McCann was there. Lisa O'Brien mentioned CFEF in her speech, so Adrian and Monica wanted to learn more. Rebecca and I were welcomed into their home on one of those really beautiful days in September. It was a lovely but unassuming home in Lane Cove. This was not a mansion with a flashy car in the garage. It was a home like hundreds and thousands of other homes across Australia. And like hundreds of thousands of other Australians, Adrian and Monica have been the recipients of great fortune, but they have also had some pretty significant hurdles thrown their way. Unfortunately, last year, Monica was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and the surgery to remove it left her with deficiencies in her speech and her movement. So even though Adrian was the one doing the talking during our meeting, we all knew that it was Monica's wish that was being fulfilled. And so after Rebecca and I ran through a presentation not dissimilar to what I've shared with you today about CFEF, our part of the presentation came to a close, and then there was silence. Monica and Adrian exchanged a loving and kind of knowing glance, and then rather than asking a raft of questions, Adrian simply said, "Well then, I will have to see if my bank will let me send you $250,000 all at once." The look of pride and relief on both Monica and Adrian's faces that they had found an organization to trust with this money, to do this work, and to fulfill their wish was what it was important for me to share with you today. What I was thinking as we were standing on their front door, hugging them goodbye, was that there's no question that the Avises gave the Smith family a significant gift that day, but we also gave the Avises a great gift. We all gave the Avises the gift of being able to trust us and support the work that we do, and for that, I thank you.